Welcome to our Northampton Community Television audience. This is Rick Haggerty with Kickin It for Peace, Culture, and Education on Valley Free Radio, 103.3 FM Northampton, airing each Sunday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. and replaying Tuesday nights at 11 p.m. I run 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And I want to thank Northampton Community Television for their affiliation with Valley Free Radio. And thanks to Al and Dave and all the folks down there that make this happen. And we're so happy this morning to have Alex Jarrett, Northampton's Ward 5 City Council candidate, co-creator of the Pebble People Cooperative, as I mentioned, part of the Northampton Housing Partnership. And he also helped to start Valley Time Trade, Northampton Snow Squad, and building a hotline and broadcast texting platform for the Pioneer Valley Workers Cooperative. Good morning, Alex. How are you today?
Good morning, Rick. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And you're doing the door-to-door thing. You said, what was it, 66% so far?
As of yesterday, I'm at 63% of all the doors in Ward 5.
All right.
And I probably meet about a third of the people, a third of the people are home or I make some sort of contact with. And I'm always kind of disappointed whenever someone doesn't answer because I'm so excited about, actually meeting them. And it's been quite an education for me. It's, of course, it's about showing people and talking to people about my campaign and what I'm standing for. But it's also been an amazing education for me as far as what are the things people are concerned about or what are the things I need to learn about.
Yeah, and we talked about that before we came on the air, that people want to know about you and you want to know about, what's going on and what people's needs are. So good for you. You're getting around. That's good for you. So the plan this morning is Alex hands out a little flyer and it talks about what he's done and talks about his goals. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what he's done because I think that really, sheds light on his potential for this office. And he talks about sustainability, equity, and solutions. So Pebble People, I see Ruthie, and Ruthie's out in the outer lobby here. She has a show on Valley Free Radio, and I see Ruthie and the other Pebble People out at the, our recycling area there. And I think, how do they do it? I mean, that's really what I think. So you're the co-creator of that.
Yeah, back in 2002, Ruthie and I started Pebble People, and we kind of had no idea if it was going to be successful at all. Ruthie had just moved from Chicago, and she had used these trailers that we use. They're made by a company called Bikes at Work, and they can haul 300 pounds of trash, recycling, whatever you want. And so when we decided, let's start some kind of bicycle-based business, we saw, well, people have to bring their trash and recycling themselves to the transfer station, or there's this huge truck that's emitting all of these pollutants and damaging our roads because heavy vehicles are what cause most of the damage to roads. And it's exponentially greater for a heavier vehicle than a lighter one. Those
businesses that come and pick up the trash and recycling,
right.
Referencing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we thought, well, what can we do about this? And can we plug into this? And so we went to a local mass bicycle advocacy group meeting, and we said, we want to do this. Would anyone sign up? And two people said, sure, I'll do it. And we're like,
as cyclists.
Yay, someone believes in us.
Wow, nice. Yeah.
And we talked to the city and got permission to to operate as a business to the local transfer center, which normally businesses had to go out to what was then the landfill. But they said, well, if you want to do it by bike, anyone can do it a business can do it by bike. To hear that cool. Makes, so they were supportive. So we had that support was also essential. And then over the years, it just slowly grew, and we figured out what we needed to wear in the winter. We figured we got a lot more efficient as we got more customers because, route work is all about that efficiency.
Yeah, I imagine. My goodness. Yeah, those winters. I mean, I think of it as like the extreme heat in the summer, and the winter work. It's got to be character building.
Yeah, those are the two. The spring and fall are pretty easy. Compared. But a lot of it's about knowing what to wear. And in the summer, that means bringing an extra water bottle of cool water just to like pour over your head, and then as you move, that evaporates and actually cools you. And,
I see.
So it's about learning to work with nature rather than against. So starting early is an example, and dividing up the work so that on those days we can finish before it gets too hot. And in the winter, it's about having all those layers, having the necessary overshoes so that the salty slush doesn't get into your boots. So, you have these waterproof overshoes, and it's all about going slower. And people say, how do you do it? But the magic is really in the gears. In the bicycle gears, and that you just downshift until you get to a low enough gear that you're not stressing yourself. It just takes you longer to get there. And so when you go up there, I mean, there's a few. I have one hill on my Wednesday route that I consider my aerobic workout, where I actually have to. My heart rate really gets going. But other than that, my heart rate is not going. It's just kind of. You're just rolling along. And
what's your coverage area do you do just the whole boundaries of Northampton? Or that's pretty much.
No.
Or do you stop at certain, because it's big. It's a big city.
It's about
geographically.
Right, and the restrictions, it has to do with density, and it has to do with geography of hills. So we don't go out, we go down Ryan Road a little bit, but we don't go out into the more suburban parts. One, because of the distance to the transfer points. And then also just things are more spread out, so we can't get that sufficient density. And it's interesting, there are parallels. We'll talk about that when we get to some of the other topics with the campaign with regard to density and transportation. And
and do you do the Leeds Elementary School, that area?
Yeah, we do Leeds Center. The denser areas of Florence and Northampton, and then we also service East Hampton.
Really?
It's been a couple of years now. We started just doing compost pickups there because those were lighter, and there's greater distance we need to travel in East Hampton. And now we've expanded for about half of our coverage area in East Hampton is full service, and we're hoping to expand more with that. But we may decide to use electric assist bicycles in that area, simply because the distances we need to travel and are greater, and that would enable us to serve more with a pretty minimal carbon impact.
And without burning out to your folks who are providing the service, having to go as far. Cool. Now, do you have to stay off the bike paths? Can you ride on the bike paths with all your
and that's essential.
I think of Leeds, maybe you just take I jog year round, and I jog up there, and I come back on that bike path, which makes it pretty direct, stay away from traffic. And
and bike paths, so especially most of the ones around here are rail trails, so they were originally built as railroads. And railroads are built with very slight grades, and so there you've got this machine that actually, even though it may sound like there's a lot of horsepower in a locomotive, when you compare that to the amount of stuff that they are it's actually, the ratio is it can't pull, it can't go up a very steep slope. And so but the bicycle, and I haven't looked at the percentages. I'm curious. I'm wondering if the amount of horsepower that we have, which is something like a quarter of a horsepower maximum or something like that.
Compared to the weight.
The ratio to the train. But it's it really enables us. We can pull really heavy loads because of those slight grades.
Nice. It's better than the road coming out of by the VA, going up to Leeds Elementary, I jog up that.
Yeah.
But so great. Okay, so 130. 130. Is it 1,000 pounds? Wait a minute. 130 pounds of CO2 emissions. Yeah, it's on the back there. Maybe I.
Yeah. So a few years ago, a class at UMass did a carbon impact study on us. So basically, they said, okay, what if all of these pickups were done by a truck in the most efficient way possible?
Right.
And then how many pounds of carbon would be required in order to do those pickups.
Yeah.
And so they did this analysis, and that was for the number of pickups we had then, and so we kind of keep that going and extrapolate. Okay, this is what we're saving, and then also the amount of food waste that we're keeping out of landfills. So a big contributor to climate change is methane emissions, and landfills, when organic waste goes into landfills, then
it emits methane.
It emits methane as it slowly biodegrades over.
Sure.
It's a very slow anaerobic process, meaning in the absence of oxygen, because it's just entombed in this landfill.
Sure.
And there is some recapture that some landfills have. They're capturing that methane, converting it to electricity.
Interesting.
So that's excellent. That needs to happen. But there's still quite a bit, there's methane that's released, and it's so much more potent a gas.
Yeah.
I've heard, I think about 30 times. There's different statistics, but it's as compared to just emitting carbon dioxide. And in terms of its global warming potential.
Sure.
So
is that an expensive process to recapture? I mean, is that very prevalent? It's.
I'm not that familiar. I know that we have on our landfill, we have a methane recapture.
That's a recapture.
And that's generating electricity. So
it's good to know.
But the food waste diversion is an important part of all of that. Food waste is then used to create soil and is composted aerobically, so that it is not creating methane.
Right. And we do that in our home, use the composting at the recycling center.
Right.
And I didn't know you guys did that. So that's good to know. And it's good to know what's being saved.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep moving. And by the way, if you just tuned in, we're speaking with Alex Jarrett, Northampton's Ward 5 City Council candidate, co-creator of the Pebble People Cooperative. He's part of the Northampton Housing Partnership. He helped start Valley Time Trade, Northampton Snow Squad, and he's built a line and broadcast texting platform for Pioneer Valley's Workers Cooperative. So let's go on. Let's talk about the Northampton Housing Partnership. You say you're advocating for affordable housing. Is that does that have to do with Habitat for Humanity? I went onto the website, and it's a government website. It's not the easiest thing to navigate. But I know what I did. I downloaded the minutes from the September meeting, and I saw Habitat for Humanity. Is that what you're involved in? And could you tell me about the
sure
how you're specifically advocating?
The Northampton Housing Partnership is a city board that advocates for affordable housing in the city, and but Habitat for Humanity is its own nonprofit organization, and we do whatever we can to support them.
Awesome.
So they have built many affordable homes throughout the city, and
I've noticed, it's a great thing. Yeah.
And so we work with them to figure out, okay, how can we get funding for this? Can we apply to the CPA, the Community I can't say that word, Community Preservation Act Committee, which is gives grants for affordable housing and other purposes, and so we've helped them in that process, and just tried to figure out how we can make more affordable units in Northampton. So
now, sorry to interrupt. As homeowners, we contribute to that. Right. I think
Correct.
that's part of our property
Yeah,
tax.
there is a surcharge.
Yeah.
And there are some exemptions for folks who have low income.
Low income. Yeah.
So who can opt out of that surcharge.
Well, it's something I feel very good about. You're contributing to, the schools and obviously on that. So, so that's great. So because there's been a lot of Habitat for Humanity.
Not
homes
enough.
And so we need more.
But Habitat
We
is kind of the only structure that I've seen in place right now that helps with affordable home ownership.
Okay.
And it keeps it in the homes that people buy through there, they're preserved as affordable going forward. So if they own their home, but if they want to sell it, there is an agreement. There's a contract that they have, which sets the price that they can sell it for.
Right. It's not like they can flip it or make money off of it.
And that kind of gets into another thing that I would love to see, which is called community land trust. And that is a setup where you own your home, but technically a nonprofit land trust owns the land that is under your home.
I've seen that in other communities.
Burlington, Vermont has one.
Burlington.
And,
I've heard of it.
Or that whole area, the Champlain Housing Trust. And they have preserved, I think, over 1,000 properties in this way. So you buy, it allows for two ways for it to be affordable. First, you can get grants for the cost of the land, so that significantly decreases the initial cost of the home. And then when the person wants to sell, the resale price is dictated by a formula that's based on how much work they put in, things they may have added to the home, and then also the inflation rate. So it prevents the kind of market speculation that we can see where housing prices just go up really fast. Right. And so those are two ways. So I'd love to work to establish a regional community land trust. There's also a lot of rental housing, so that the housing partnership has worked with other organizations, Wayfinders, and others to do the lumber yard and Live 155 on Pleasant Street. Those are both affordable or partially affordable for Live 155 and fully for the lumber yard.
Nice. That's great stuff. So, and then, excuse me, we talked about Valley Time Trade as well, and I noticed on the website there are 392 members at this point, with over 19,000 hours exchanged, and that's great for people to, save money and exchange services
and build community.
Yeah,
because
in the process, right?
Right, you meet so many people, and Valley Time Trade really values a lot of services that people can offer that are undervalued by our system now. So, for example, the services of seniors who are retired and have so much experience and history and knowledge to share, and the kinds of services that they might know. For example, someone may offer, I'll do mending, and something that's a lot of people are not learning these days. It's kind of being a throwaway society. We just tend to say, it's a button fell off, let me buy a new shirt.
It's like a waste. Right.
So there's so much knowledge that's undervalued that I think Valley Time Trade can help.
And I think of, seniors too might in a lot of cases be on a fixed income. And so then the service that comes back to them, the hours that come back to them, help them sustain themselves, and it's a win-win. A really great thing. So Northampton Snow Squad, and then Time is short here, so let's go. Pioneer Valley's Workers Center. I wasn't aware of this, and I noticed that it connects immigrants and people of color, women, LGBTQ, oppressed groups, improves workplace conditions, and grows their decision-making power, fighting for pro-worker legislation. That's really powerful stuff. So you've been building helping with a texting platform or broadcast, and
a couple of, has it been maybe a year and a half ago, I joined their tech team to because I had a background before Pebble People in doing some computer software work, so I've still been doing that kind of to help with the Pebble People systems, and so it will. I created, along with a couple of other volunteers, something that people can call in, and it can connect to volunteers depending on the language that you speak, and depending on the time of day. You're connected to volunteers who can help. So if you have a situation where you have either just you're undocumented and you need a ride somewhere because you don't have a driver's license and it is dangerous to drive, and because then you can be connected with people who can help with giving you those rides. Or if there's a situation that's where you're concerned about workplace safety in terms of immigration enforcement coming, then we can mobilize.
Nice. And I do want to say this is WXOJ 103.3 FM Northampton, Valley Free Radio, streaming online at valleyfreeradio.org. So, and there's so much, there's such a high need in that area. I mean, it's such an incredible, ridiculous threat. I mean, I was talking to my fiance yesterday about renewing my license, and I said, well, I can get my regular license or a real license, and that would have to be shown flying domestically. If I don't have my passport, I'm like, what is this? Police state? I mean, I saw something on Facebook recently where there was a Jewish child being within the fascist, war era Europe, having a number, and now, children like, being detained and having numbers, and that people are treated again like things. It's a very kind of fascism it seems to be returning. Mm-hmm. Once, that at one time it was defeated, and now it's, it's unreal. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So fighting for the rights of people who are oppressed is not just a good idea now, it's just a basic necessity.
Yeah, and making the connections between the U.S. foreign policies and how that has created many of the conditions that people are fleeing from. So when you understand that, you kind of say, well, it is our responsibility to bring in refugees because we help to create these conditions.
That's right.
So
supporting
bringing that back
awful
locally.
Dictators and bombings and everything else. So
bringing that back locally, the Workers Center is doing a lot of great work, and I was very happy to support them technically in that work.
Awesome. So thanks for telling us about your history. And you say, quote, as city councilor, I will bring leadership that is responsive, energetic, and prioritizes listening and collaboration. And it sounds like you're not new to that sort of thing. Looks like you've been doing a lot of that.
Yeah, and Pebble People is a worker cooperative, and we come together and make decisions together. And so I've had a lot of experience in looking at different points of view and trying to reconcile the differences and come to decisions that work for everyone. Actually, at a much higher threshold, we make most of our decisions by consensus decision making, which in a city you make it by majority. But the more you can find that common ground and get as close to consensus as you can, the better the long-term decision is going to stick.
Well, that's great stuff. And I talked to you a little bit about, my living on Nonotuck Street for years, and the history of the Nonotuck Neighborhood Association and now the Nonotuck Elm, group, I guess Facebook group, but we're just fighting for safety on our street, and results with, speed humps and lines that make the road a little narrower, and having trees planted along the road, and then that South Main kind of Federal Street area being a little bit safer with the little poles so people don't just run into one another, or and tragically we had a fellow lost his life on the Hinckley Street extension coming across Nonotuck, and it's the neighborhood stuff is just and working together and collaborating and working toward a common goal can be life-saving. It's so important. So you say your goals: housing that all of us can afford, fiscal responsibility, taxes and fees don't harm people with limited resources. Stop me at any time. Climate change leadership that leaves our children with a better future.
I'm happy to talk about any of those things.
Pick one. We've got about 4 minutes.
Okay.
Business development. How about if I just got down the list? Business development that promotes local and community and employee ownership. Walkable mixed-use development, so basic needs are within walking distance, safe and district. So we've covered a lot. So what do you think? What would you say? And you say city government, that includes everyone. What would you say is the most important issue facing Northampton today, and what would you do to address it?
Well, I mean, that's always a hard thing to say, but as far as the most important, but affordability is a big concern. It's something that is both impacting people who have lived here for a really long time, and seniors who are on a fixed income, and every time you see the fees go up or an override happen, and
it's happened quite a bit over the years.
Yeah,
then
you think about, well, maybe I should move, even though I've lived here for a long time. I think a lot of people are making those decisions. Or you're someone who's renting and who sees that your rent go up considerably every year, and really not be sure that you're going to be able to stay. And these even people who have, you have two income earners who have both have good jobs, who just can't figure out how to buy because of that difficulty. I hear that as well. Yeah, that's true. So the problems are complicated, and there's just many solutions that we have to look at. So one, thinking about the state is very specific about how we can raise money as a city, and it's primarily through property tax. And but property tax has no. There's some relation to income, but because often people buy bigger houses when they have more income, but it's not necessarily. So you may have someone who has lived in the house for a long time, it's now worth a lot, but they don't have much income. And so I think we need I would like to advocate for change, having our system at the state level be different in terms of having a more progressive income tax, and not having as much of the burden on the cities as for property tax, but to give us as a city more flexibility in being able to give people who are low income breaks on their property tax, and to be able to charge people who have luxury homes, or perhaps second homes, just people who actually have the resources to give more, to ask them to give more, so that we can help out the people who don't have as much.
So that's on the income side.
That's on
the income side, right? So that means that you'd have to be collaborating with our local representatives, and
have
Lindsay,
to lobby the state, a home rule petition, or so that's it's difficult, and it's not something we can just do on our own. But I feel it's necessary if we're going to continue to have overrides in order to raise money for essential services. need to also be working on making sure that our taxation system is fairer.
Sure. I mean, since being in Northampton, I recall the high school override, and then I think there was a economic override, and I'm not sure, maybe there was a third, but that's been
and then there's
taxes.
capital projects like the police station.
Yes,
So
that too.
There's a lot of
that was the other one,
things
right? Police and fire. Yeah, so there have been a few just in. I bought in '96, so so 20 years, 3, and it's significant, Well, first of all, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I'd like to ask how you'd like to wrap this up, how you'd like to closing statement. I mean, what would you like to say to my listeners, and that you'll be coming around, right? Because if you haven't been there already, and go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I think just that I have a lot of ideas. And you can go to my website, alexjarrett.com. That's AlexJarrett, and you can see a lot of those ideas. But the work of continuing to listen to the people of Ward 5 is essential. And so I'm doing that now in terms of actually going to everyone that I possibly can. And I pledge, if I'm elected, to continue that. I've calculated I have to knock on 16 doors a week in order to return to everyone in the ward throughout a 2-year period. So I'm committing to doing that, and then also to hold periodic listening sessions throughout the ward and going to people. We can't just expect people to come to city meetings, because there are many people who don't have the ability, whether it's transportation issues, childcare, they don't have the ability to actually attend city meetings and make their voice known there.
It's kind of the way it is now.
So we need to go to the libraries, go to the public the rooms,
nice.
Community rooms at public housing, and so I have a commitment to continue to listen and
outstanding.
And work with people.
Yeah, and again, we've been speaking with Alex Jarrett, and I just lost my screen there. There we go. Ward 5 City Council candidate, co-creator of the Pebble People, part of the Northampton Partnership, helped start Valley Time Trade, Northampton Snow Squad. He's building a hotline and broadcast texting platform for Pioneer Valley Workers Cooperative, all really great stuff. He's at Alex Jarrett, JARRETT.com, and text. Good. Yeah. 320-4700, 320-4700. Facebook and Twitter at Alex Jarrett W5. That's for Ward 5. Well, best of luck to you. And again, thanks for coming on. I want to say thank you to our Northampton Community Television audience. Again, this is Rick Haggerty with Kickin' It for Peace, Culture, and Education, airing each Sunday morning from 8 to 10 a.m., replaying Tuesdays, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. We're so happy to have you all with us. And again, thank you to Northampton Community Television for these awesome cameras that we have in our studio. So we're going to sign off there.